It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. We just saw our match of the day, which was our third match of the day between Tice and Kalento. Kalento took it by a score of 2-1. And now we're moving on to our fourth one here. I'm Matt Saberable, and I'm joined by Derek Round. And Derek, we got another pretty cool one here with Pavel versus Jarla. Pavel, the only Holy Wrath Paladin in Europe this week.
He is indeed. It's been a bit of a weird road so far for Pavel in Grandmasters. I'd say he's definitely turned it around in terms of his overall preparation after a pretty poor week one. He's looking a lot stronger here this week overall. However, in this particular matchup, I'd say this may not be what he's looking to find. This Holy Wrath Paladin, if you haven't noticed, runs a lot of card draw. It's going to cycle through its deck as quick as it possibly can to play Jarla for 0 mana after playing a lot of spells, shuffle it back into your deck with the Baleful Banker, and then play Holy Wrath to deal 25 damage to your opponent. However, up against Jarla's deck, which we can take a look at now, it turns out that drawing a whole bunch of cards when your opponent is shuffling a whole bunch of bombs into your deck kills you pretty quickly.
Indeed it does, and that is a bit of a worry of mine, but however, I am also a bit worried for Jarla in this one, where he has to be delivering pressure onto Pavel with that. And if you look at the pressure, it's definitely present. You know, thinking Augmented Elix, Clockwork Goblins, Wrench Calibers, I think probably one of the most efficient cards in the matchup in terms of just raw damage for mana output. But A, he has to draw those cards, and then B, he has to have Pavel be able to not defend himself. And there are some ways that can happen on Pavel's side, although you're not often afforded that liberty due to your opponent just having minions and having pressure.
Yep.
But secondarily, it's a lot of tricky stuff, and it's not guaranteed. They're all odds calculations of when your timing is. And one of the things I'm thinking about specifically is being able to time out and then string together draws to try to get bombs to explode while you're immune due to timeout. And it's, again, you're just not often afforded that luxury. And I don't mean to knock on Pavel here too much, but given his first match with this deck, I don't think that a lot of the technical play looked very pretty. And so given that, I'm curious if Pavel has the prowess with this particular deck right now to be able to execute everything that needs to be done to play around as many situations as possible.
Yes, Pavel quite clearly made some objective mistakes in the first time we saw him play this deck a couple of days ago. That obviously does not mean he's not proficient with the overall game plan. He did end up taking the series. But I think he's, like you said, he's going to have to step it up a little bit.
Hey, imagine when you don't have to coin to do this.
Imagine! Dude, it would be insane. Like, absolutely insane. I'm thinking, imagine, would you like to have Galvanizer on 2 literally every game? The answer is yes.
Oh, I didn't even think about that deck.
Yeah, I know. Mech Paladin is going to be the truth. You play a 5-mana Glowstone Technician with a 1-mana Christology to fill up your hand first.
I think Holy Wrath Paladin is just going to be better.
Nope.
All right.
I honestly think the Glowstone Paladin is going to be very, very strong. That card's already good.
In case you're wondering, we have an unprecedented buff patch that's upcoming where a number of cards are being changed. The Rise of the Mechs.
I'm so excited.
You can check it out. Google it, find the webpage, and read about it. Some new cards coming as well as a lot of buffs across the board.
It's Christmas come early for Hearthstone.
Yeah, indeed. The main one we're talking about is Christology is moving to 1 mana.
Ah. Ooh, Christology mass.
Clean as I can imagine.
The perfect joke. I finally found it.
And so early on, Pavel faced with one of the more troublesome things that can actually happen in the matchup, which is just Eternium Rover.
Yep.
Eternium Rover quickly begins to put Jarla outside of the reach of damage.
So take this opportunity to talk about armor. How does it affect this matchup and how important is it?
It's extremely important. I mean, Pavel's damage, if you calculate everything that he can going to face, let's subtract minions because his minions are not going to stand up usually to the pressure that Jarla has. You're looking at 50 max from Holy Wraths. That's Jarla, 2 Baleful Bankers.
Which very possibly will not happen.
But it also very possibly can happen. It's pretty easy to deliver that. The problem is being able to deliver that
while not dying.
While not dying, and also have it be enough to kill your opponent. You got 8 damage from True Silver Champion. So that's 58 damage. You got 6 damage from Hammer of Wraths.
That's 64.
And then you have 2 more from Consecration. And 1 more from Elven Archer.
Which does cap us off at 69.
It's a nice amount of damage,
how Hearthstone works out sometimes.
It's got to be done very particularly, and like you said, you don't always get that opportunity. You're not always going to have the perfect A lot of times you have to expend Hammer of Wrath or True Silver champions so that you can stay alive.
Yeah. Right, and that's the important thing, which is why plays such as Jarla's look very strong in this matchup. He's curved out 1-drop, well, I suppose not 2-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop, 3-drop. He's just getting stuff on board and making life pretty difficult for Pavel. But with a 1-card answer in the form of Acolyte of Pain, Pavel has made Jarla's life very difficult. What does he do here?
Well, there's always the 3% chance you just burn the Shirvala.
All right.
I love this play from Jarla. I've talked about this a lot. I absolutely think you should be doing this. A little bit curious about foregoing the hero power. I personally would have bumped both my minions and done it. Or bumped one of my minions and done it.
Oh, my heart was all aflutter then.
You just saw the golden legendary border.
I was like, boy, it's happening.
There's 3 legendaries in the deck, Celiax, Shirvala, and Crystal Smith Kangor. And I'm going to be honest, when I saw the legendary border, I too was very nervous for Pavel.
What would Uther do?
This comes purely from personal experience, where if this were to happen to me, it's Shirvala literally 100% of the time. But now this is... Okay, so this is actually interestingly brings up another point from Jarla, which is the benefit of his play here, not only, although there are downsides to it, I'm going to highlight the positives first, it's not only that you get a chance to overdraw Shirvala, it's the fact that this Paladin deck really suffers from just getting rid of cards in its hand. The overdraw potential,
management.
It's very, very difficult with this deck, which is another very big benefit of Jarla's play. The negative of Jarla's play here is the fact that he's just drawn a bunch of cards for Pavel. He drew very aggressively through his deck, which means the combo of Shirvala, if no key card is burned, becomes much more valuable.
Indeed.
Or becomes down much quicker, I should say.
Also Pavel down to 68 damage.
Light the fuses!
Yep. Jarla here just continuing to put stuff on board.
He's yet to draw any bomb cards, though.
He's yet to draw much of anything that's good at all in this matchup. After his early curve, which was obviously fairly strong, this is terrible. This hand's rubbish.
64 damage available.
Range Caliber's all right. There is no weapon destruction in the deck, no Harrison.
Holy Wrath Paladin is an extremely tight deck list where I think you're afforded like maximum 3 cards you can change. And weapon destruction is just not your MO.
I guess so. I think there's a lot of cards that you can switch out how many of the key cards you have, like whether you have 2 Shrink Ray or 2 Equalities, how many Consecrations.
Yeah, those are like swappable,
right,
in my opinion. Not so much like cards you actually change.
Good point.
I'm thinking like you can change Blessing of Wisdom, you can change Elven Archer, you can change Soup Vendor.
Yeah, you don't really want to a lot of the time.
I'm not cutting any of the rest of these.
Yeah.
If weapon destruction is super popular, maybe you could cut True Silver sometimes.
What I would like here a lot from Yarra is, I think, just saving the weapon swing, right? Like, you can go for the Elic next turn. If the Elic isn't removed, despite the fact that it likely will be, you can just get 4 bombs shuffled in. He wants to be greedy with the amount of bombs he puts into deck.
And wisely, I think, just continuing to cap the hero power. Because again, if you are above a reach of whatever damage Pavel has in the immediacy, which at the end of the game is like, you know, it's a Hammer of Wrath plus a Holy Wrath for Shirvala.
Yeah.
That's 28 in 1 turn. If you're above the 28 mark, Pavel has to start doing work. So every time you press that button, that's another worry for Pavel.
Is there ever a situation in this matchup where you do the old trick of having 10 cards in hand to overdraw bombs?
I think that can often come up in this matchup. You have to have like the perfect hand for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely arises.
So not yet. He needs to find Shirvala's... Well, he actually needs to find basically all 5 of Double Banker, Double Holy Wrath, and Shirvala before he starts doing that.
Unless for some reason he can just start cranking out damage with these wild Pyromancers and Hero Powers and Soup Vendor.
But Shirvala is key, right? He has to find Shirvala before he starts doing that.
You cannot Holy Wrath for a victory. I say cannot. It's a virtual impossibility for him to kill Yarla without a Shirvala Holy Wrath.
Yeah. And given that Pavel does not substitute in the Undertaker in either of his 2 secondary or tertiary decks, he is all in on the Holy Wrath plan in all of his matches.
And so for Yarla, it's a very grand game plan of what cards are being used for what. It's a very particular resource distribution.
And I think the interesting thing is here that he might save back the Elec to go Ziliax Elec on the following turn in order to be more likely to get double activation on both charges of his Wrench Caliber.
It's not only that, but he doesn't need to use the Wrench Calibers at all right now.
Right, exactly. So he saves both charges of the Wrench Caliber and tries to protect the Elec so that both charges can get the double activation.
Yep.
I like this slow play.
You just want to make it awkward for Pavel to clear, which makes him use damage, which if he uses damage, decreases his reach. You want to keep hitting the hero power button, and at every single step of the way, you want to have Shirvallas accounted for from a tempo perspective. That is really the one way that Pavel can sneak through in the end game is if a Shirvallah actually sticks to board. That's a nightmare for Jarla.
Very unlikely to happen if Jarla keeps it in mind.
Yeah, and he's very clearly going to do that.
Absolutely. There's a pretty nice combo here with the double healing effect from Kangol. Gives you a draw off the Soup Vendor. He's got to start chipping off damage, right? He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, I think it's wise.
Oh, and again, you're seeing the fact that in this deck, you have to get cards out of your hand, but you really don't want to play any of these cards for Pavel. He can't play timeout. He needs to go for a big kind of timeout turn that you were talking about, where he draws a bunch of bombs at the same time.
He doesn't necessarily need to, but it is something
he would
to keep
like
in mind.
to.
Yeah. Well, ideally, he would like to not do that because it means there's no bombs there.
All right. Well, ideally, he wouldn't be playing this deck at all, and we'd be playing a super favorable matchup.
Ideally, we'd just all be happy and eat ice cream.
Amen. Do you want to get some after we're done casting?
Maybe.
I'll have some. You can watch, as you are a responsible adult who does not indulge in
I'll just eat
indulgences.
I'll just eat some bacon. I like salt better anyway.
So this is where Jarla is kind of coming to a divergence in the game plans he could take, where we could be looking at the kind of turn I was talking about, where you Elec, you protect it with the Ziliax, you try and get another swing on the following turn. But I wonder if he's going to be even greedier with the Elec than that, where he tries to get a Clockwork Goblin before he goes for a swing, or 2 Elecs and then swings with the weapons. Because he just wants to get as many bombs in the deck as he can, and he doesn't even need to do it quickly. The later he does it, the more likely Pavel is to start drawing them.
Missed an armor button.
To kill off a Soup Vendor and maybe get an extra bomb into your opponent's deck, I think this is fine. Because the odds of him getting above 50 health, I would say, are very low at this point, before Pavel starts going for the Shirvallah OTK. And so I think just making sure he stays above the 28-30 mark for Hammer of Wrath plus Shirvallah combo is very reasonable. Something
I'm thinking about is the Ziliax way down the road, where Pavel, it's impossible at this point for him to execute 2 Holy Wraths in the same turn.
That's correct.
Unless he gets lucky and with 1 card left shuffles in 2 Shirvallas and then does not draw Shirvallah and has both Holy Wraths. It's a very unlikely circumstance.
Could he get Holy Wrath swapped with a cheaper card off of Prismatic Lens and then maybe go
You can do that as well.
It's unlikely, though. Right?
Yes, and also the turns, if Pavel wants to try and set up a Shirvallah like that, if Jarla has held a bomb, what he can do is then try to break the chain of Holy Wrath simply with bombs in there. So there's a lot of weird counterplay. So what I'm looking at is, can Jarla set it up in a way to where he's safe from the first Holy Wrath, can have a high enough armor total that he can recover from the first blow of Holy Wrath, specifically with Ziliax. I'm curious if that's on his mind. And from what I've seen from Jarla before, he typically has very, very deep endgame lines in mind.
He does, but he is now just swinging with the Wrench Caliber after not having swung with it at all for a few turns. Oh no, I guess, sorry, that's the second one.
There's 2 reasons I think why. Number 1, Pavel has expended Crystal Smith Kangor.
That's true.
So the damage starts to add up because there doesn't a double healing effect. Shirvallah won't heal for 14 in a single turn.
I think it's also the second one being picked up.
The second one, it's being picked up, and he just didn't really have anything else to do that turn.
Yeah, it's true.
But overall, very nice timing for when you have to start expending him.
I mean, really now for Jarla, he just wants any bomb cards. Omega Assembly is fairly likely to get him a Clockwork Goblin. given that it's a warrior class card. Oof. Those are all a little too defensive. I guess Beryllium Nullifier can be difficult to clear off, but double equality makes that pretty quick work.
I think the Steambot's actually pretty good here.
Yeah, I guess
Just
actually.
stops a couple points damage.
Interesting.
Like, again, the health total really matters. Like, we're at 39 right now. We go up to 41 with a hero power. Like, he could very easily get outside of 50.
Maybe he could, yeah. I guess with the heal off of Ziliax as well, because, like you said, he cannot go double Holy Wrath in one turn, so a magnetized Ziliax might be able to effectively add that extra buffer of health to stop the double Holy Wrath.
I mean, it seems wacky, but I'm serious. I have, for whatever reason, a weird amount of time playing OTK Paladin and Bomb Warrior. I just like the decks.
I'm a Hunter and Rogue game myself. They're very different ends of the spectrum in terms of Hearthstone enjoyment.
Yeah, Jarla not happy about this turn either.
Yeah.
Clearing the 1/1. I am quite interested in that. Is that specifically a nod to just equality being efficient on board?
I think that's part of it. The Blessing of Wisdom has been played right, and there's only one in the deck.
Correct. So the prismatic lens out is gone.
I think he just knows that all points of healing he deals are going to be healed by Jarla, right? Like, damage to face at this point, I would say, just doesn't actually matter that much.
I was just thinking about the 1/1 doing nothing. You have a 0/9 taunt play.
But it can do something, right, if the equality comes down is the point. Just makes that a little bit more awkward.
I guess if you could preserve the 0/9 long enough, it shuts down a Jarla hitting you. That seems kind of rare.
Yeah, even then, obviously, with the rush, it would take a turn before it can even do that. This game's getting really interesting, especially as the ability for Pavel to do much of anything has pretty much completely stopped now. He just needs to get rid of cards in his hand, unless he, of course, wants to draw with Holy Wrath, which I don't envisage he will.
Well, he has 2 Holy Wraths and he has 2 Baleful Bankers and he has Jarla.
He is just overdrawing.
Yeah, but this tells Jarla Pavel has those cards in hand.
With a pretty high degree of certainty.
He will account for it as though it is true.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, reasonable options there. The magnetic of the replicating menace is nice to be able to push a bit of immediate damage, but far from premium mechs there being discovered. No Ziliax, no Clockwork Goblin, no Vicious Scrap Hound, even just anything that gained armor hit there was basically pretty good.
Pavel has maximum 60 damage available, but we're risking Hammer of Wrath being burned. So as it currently stands, I'm thinking 57. And that's over 2 turns. Yeah, Jarla says, I just don't want him to be able to do anything.
I like this. I like getting the damage down and pushing threats.
Just a card drop.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. I mean, basically anything that wasn't a bomb there was just pretty sad. So, does he have the liberty to just pass until he goes for lethal? I don't think so, right? He'd just take too much damage.
I'm trying to think of the specific timing. He's going to take a lot of damage here.
He really is. Maybe it was just better to tank the damage. Like, he has to start getting Jarla cheaper as well is something to consider.
Yeah, the Jarla, that definitely gets discounted pretty naturally.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
You have Quality Consecration to 8 off, and then the timeouts. I mean, 1 timeout's enough for the rest of it. So I'm actually much more interested in Jarla's side of it and seeing how he navigates through all the possibilities that Pavel has. Because Pavel's game plan, very straightforward. It's deal 50.
Fair enough. Obviously, how he gets there is interesting, but I agree. He has one way to win this game.
And Jarla's clearly a bit stressed out about timing of bombs.
I mean, it's super important, right? Now that the card, Pavel's hand has gone down to 8 cards, he can once again start shuffling. but he also wants to fit in hero powers, and he also wants to put pressure on board.
I think he's looking for exactly Clockwork Goblin before he lets loose on the
I think you're right.
the Elec.
I think you're right.
And this damage, it starts to create a break point against Pavel.
Because again, if he waits for the bombs until right at the end, either there's an empty deck, at which point it's guaranteed 5 damage every shuffle, or he can disrupt the Jarla combo.
So this is one of the timeout possibilities where you can preserve against bomb damage, which is specifically when you have Prismatic Lens versus what is remaining in your deck. So there's a Crystology left.
There's another Prismatic Lens.
Yeah. All right, I like this.
I like this a lot.
It's tough to, obviously again it's still circumstantial, but pulling this bomb here is very relevant for Pavel, and he gets the bomb. Diffused.
That's important.
And he has another Prismatic Lens for this. Oh! Is Jarla going to go in here, though?
Does he have to, though? Can't he just wait a turn? Because he never dies in one turn, but maybe if he waits too long, it gives Pavel just like the 1 in 5 shot of hitting the second Jarla.
What
So that's the thing. He does need to think about the possibility of Pavel having a discounted Holy Wrath.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't occur the next turn. No, it can't occur next turn because the bomb was the spell drawn and it replaces the Holy Wrath, and this is the second Prismatic Lens in
You're
hand.
correct, yep.
Okay, so more pieces of the puzzle falling into place for Jarla in terms of Pavel's possibilities.
I must choose.
Oh, the timeouts. He has to take damage if he wants to shuffle bombs.
Well, he just waits, right? Like I
Yeah,
think
I
this
think he
is
does.
smart from Pavel. He just doesn't have to shuffle bombs yet. It's not necessary. He's pre-equipping it because, again, no weapon removal. This is just good mana expenditure.
Does he have a minion left in deck? He does.
I don't think he does, right? Or he would have drawn another
Is it
card off the
Ziliax?
Prismatic Lens.
No, he used Ziliax already, didn't he?
Which path to choose?
He burned Ziliax, right? Off of the... that was the card he burned when he overdrew.
Flash of Light was one of them.
Yeah. Well, on the turn where Jarla went for the Acolyte overdraw right at the start.
Yes.
I think Ziliax was the overdraw.
So second equality is one of the remaining cards.
So we could just see Pavel going for another
Yeah.
draw bomb turn.
Crystology and Equality are his 2 remaining cards.
Okay.
It's time.
Whoa.
Is he just going for a chance to rip the Jarla right now? He's realizing he's behind. He's
Whoa!
just going for it.
Whoa! But he has minions in play, and Jarla has the 4/1 survive. So now think to the Jarla, or think to the Ziliax spot, and shield block is drawn. We have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 13 additional life for Jarla this turn, which puts him at 32. And at 32, Pavel has 28 plus 2 damage from the Baleful Banker if that connects. So Jarla can get outside of the technical range for Pavel,
Yes.
which means that Pavel would have to connect minions to win the game.
This save from Ziliax was insane. But Jarla can rush in, and because it has Divine Shield, it wouldn't restore any more health. But even then, it wouldn't quite be lethal.
I must choose.
But mind you, if Jarla uses all the armor this turn,
What now?
what that means is that he can't shield slam on the following turn. Pavel's life total is irrelevant. All that matters is Jarla's own life total. So he's going to expend 2, shield blocks to 29, and then hero powers to 31. Pavel
Even
has,
Hammer of Wrath and 25 damage is not lethal.
he has to connect with a minion or he cannot win the game.
So now the deck is a bomb and
A Christology. I'm
a
sorry,
Christology.
an equality.
Equality, I think.
Yes.
I mean, he has to hit it right here.
Not it.
At the end there for Pavel, that gambit of just going for an early shuffle with Jarla, catching Yarla off balance to try and get him in a situation where he could get a chance for a second swing with the Jarla and get in the 25 damage. I think that was a pretty good way to go about just trying to catch Yarla off balance. I think is the main thing there, because he had this game pretty planned out if Pavel waited until the final card and then did the guaranteed Jarla combo. Because if Pavel did that, he can obviously just go all in with bombs and make it a very, very low chance for Jarla to be drawn at all.
He missed a truce over to face.
What, by killing off a minion earlier?
Yeah. So would he have died from the pressure? I don't know. But he missed a truce over to face, which he was 3 damage off lethal, 28 versus 31 health.
Or was that in one of the other games he played?
No, that was this game.
I know. Making a joke at our expense.
Wow.
Sorry, George.
It's a tough matchup that's in there. But we got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to get into game 2 number this and see if game number 2 of this and see if Yarla can once again outlast the holy wrath that's in store for him from Pavel. Stay tuned.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards. Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city. That'll keep the guards busy.
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets. Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture. Shiny, shiny, shiny.
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please. Let's strap some rockets to the city.
Oh, big candle.
And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want. Yes! Finally, you're exactly right.
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Weak candle. Just wait till second gear kicks in. It's just like I said. We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got. It's a genius plan. It's simple. It should have been obvious. And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius. How do we land?
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. We are amidst our 4th match of the day. Yarla versus Pavel is what we have in store. Yarla currently a 1-0 lead over Pavel, who is going to be trying out his secondary deck, Pavel is, which the changes, it doesn't look too significant to me, other than sometimes being able to stick a 10 or 4-12 and sometimes being able to survive some bomb damage at the end of the game.
Yeah, we've got the only 2 cards being teched in here, interestingly, in the High Priest Thakal and obviously the big boy himself, Nozari, bringing himself back up to full health, but also the Warrior up to full health, which I guess could actually have implications depending on how the game shakes out, what kind of lethal he's going for. But either way, like you said, I do not feel like this is a particularly anti-warrior teched secondary list. To be honest, I haven't played with Nozari in OTK Holy Wrath Paladin. I have no idea if it improves the matchup. I would guess not really.
The way I look at it is there's a High Priest Thakal there. That could attack for 3.
That's true. And I mean, I guess if you're taking a lot of damage, you can just throw it down the turn before you, or the turn after you take a lot of bomb damage. Like, you can split up the bombs that you're taking rather than getting them all in one chunk and just dying.
Right. I mean, most of Pavel's damage is going to come with a 1-2 punch. It's going to be Holy Wrath into Holy Wrath. And so if that's being the case, what that means is I think he has a little bit more liberty to spend removal in terms of just pure damage at that point, and then have a Nozari at the end of the game, which maybe buys him enough time. Say he has too many bombs in the deck, or he's just taking too much damage from minions at that point. Nozari, I think, can be a useful tool in the overall setup of your game plan, which is to survive bomb damage and then connect for 50 with 2 Holy Wraths.
And like you said, I almost have the suspicion that the High Priest Thekal, literally just as a 3-4, might be more important. Or maybe when they work in conjunction, if you can throw down the Thekal right at the start of the game and then go for the Nozari on curve on turn 10, you can get yourself up to a bunch of armor.
Or say you're just like you're safe in a spot and you know that they're about to have a big bomb turn, you can time out the call and then go into Nozari.
Maybe this is just a good anti-warrior tech. I've never seen this before. I've only seen the Undertaker techs for warrior.
Yeah,
but it's super interesting.
It's an idea that I have encountered and is much more difficult to execute in practice than it is in theory.
Right.
In theory, Bomb Warrior does not actually pressure you that much because you have very efficient answers to what's happening. The problem is, as you continue playing the matchup, you really do not want anything to happen to your removal, and you don't want your life total chipped away. So what ends up happening is you don't fall into these perfect game plans where you get to push all the damage. Again, Pavel's total damage output in this game, in terms of just raw spells and weapons, is 68 total damage. The Elven Archer has been substituted out. And so what that means, look at the last game. Literally a true Silver Swing could have been the difference in Pavel winning the game and losing the game.
It could have been. There's so much stuff to consider because then you're getting into the situation of, by leaving a minion in play, does that allow him to attach Ziliax onto it because it was a mech? Does he just die on board? Does he need to clear off minions? Did he need to clear cards out of hand? It gets so complicated. But at the very least, there were different lines he could have taken that definitely would have affected the outcome.
Yeah, there's too many calculable differences to really put into perspective and say, undoubtedly, that one play would have won the game. But to me, this Holy Wrath Paladin deck versus Warrior is about seizing possibilities more than it is seizing definitive answers.
Speak to me.
As we see a similar standoff, I would imagine, to what we had in the previous game with Acolyte v Acolyte. Who wants to draw cards more? Let's find out. As Yarla did have the opportunity to go Coin Clockwork Goblin, I guess, to try and counteract the possibility of an opposing Acolyte of Pain. But given that Pavel only runs one copy of Acolyte of Pain in his deck, I think the Coin Acolyte from Yarla was more likely to draw him more cards and work out well for him.
And so there is a bit of failure rate with Prismatic Lens. If Pavel draws specifically Shirvala and Holy Wrath, his damage becomes so limited.
That's true.
That it becomes, again, a pretty virtual impossibility to win the game.
I would say, however, in the super favored matchups, you can afford to play around that by waiting until you draw those cards. In this matchup, he cannot be taking those kind of liberties.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go for it right here, obviously, but at some point soon, I expect to see the lens just being slammed.
The ideal situation is that you use Crystology prior to using the rest of your draw spells. And I think that's one of the main priorities for Pavel this game, is just you want to get Crystology because it thins out cards that draw cards, and then your card draw draws more action than it does card draw.
This turn for Pavel was so insane in terms of card draw. Drew, what, 4 cards that turn? Pretty crazy stuff, but Yarla shuffling another bomb in here. Pavel did draw the first one, which is obviously bad for implications of Blast Master Boom. But we could still see Yarla with the ability to summon 4 Boom Bots as it currently stands.
Pavel should be on hand size control this turn.
Absolutely.
It's pretty tough, honestly.
With 2 Holy Wraths and a Baleful Banker in terms of the combo left in deck, he's got to be real careful.
10 cards in hand, one of them's got to go.
I hope you like my invention.
3 mana to make one of them go.
Wow, the bomb being found again. This is pretty miserable for Yarla.
Yeah, that's pretty darn unlucky, all things considered, because the ideal situation is you blast Master Boom for pressure. I think it's the reason that Jarla has played more aggressively this game.
I agree. Not waiting for Alec, not waiting for late game disruption, just playing for kill my opponent until they're dead. And he still has the ability to shuffle more bombs in with 3 effective swings of Wrench Caliber available to him.
Nice clean turn here.
Light the fuses!
Love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, he will be holding on to the Wrench Caliber at least until next turn, I believe.
Really? He could go swing this turn, equip Wrench Caliber, swing again next turn.
The pressure is just building up a lot.
It's pretty big. Shirvala is obviously nowhere near being playable. Nozari nowhere near being playable.
So swing into swing with Wrench Caliber. I mean, you get 3 swings with Wrench Caliber in 3 turns if you just smack it this way.
He's clearly deliberating over it. It's not an easy decision because next turn maybe he wants to go Devastator or double shield block. But I think setting up for a turn 7 boom is probably the way to go. Yarla disagrees though.
You also have to account for board space. Right now, if you have minions in play, you're not going to get that many summons anyway.
Fair point. And I guess this is just saying he's got his mana set for something else next turn. Most likely Devastator, just to get something on the board.
What would Uther do?
You don't care about burning the additional draw from Crystology.
You are correct. Oh, we only had 1 anyway.
Correct. But in the grand scheme of things,
I think you'd be fine.
You also would not care. Correct.
Yeah, just thinning cards off the top of your deck is really good.
Yeah.
You just want to get through to the fatigue state so you can kill your opponent as quick as possible. As Pavel is just dying, as it currently stands. He's got the True Silver Swing, obviously, that can heal for 4 with Kangor on the following turn. But until he finds Flash of Lights or discounts Shivala or gets up to a Nozari turn...
Remember, discounting Shivala does not work in the matchup either. Like, if you're going to discount Shivala, it means you have to shuffle it. And if you have to shuffle it, that means you've lost damage.
Yeah, that's true.
In terms of guarantee. Like, at that point, it becomes pure opportunity versus raw percentage.
The downside of Yarla's play, however, is that he has been foregoing a lot of hero powers. So he's only at 27, whereas the last game he was, up to a pretty good amount of health total at this point. As Pavel finding the Flash of Light,
it's a sick
he's
draw.
Big. Does he do it this turn, or is he looking to go Consecration? Or could he go Pyromancer, Crystal Smith, Flash of Light himself, and then swing to kill off the...
What would Uther do?
I hope you like my invention.
I think I like doing something different on this turn. Like, he wants to get rid of these minions first.
It allows him to do something very different. Like, rather than having to clear everything off, he feels at least a sense of security. Now, there's a lot of bombs being shuffled into his deck, and he's at 10. So, I have a bit of a question mark.
Potential lethal here.
I mean, Yarla's timing on the Blastmaster Boom, I think the ideal situation isn't necessarily tempo either. One of the things that you want to look for is warpathing with it to kill your opponent.
That's true.
So in this situation, if he uses Blastmaster Boom, he has to fear Consecration Timeout as being a major shutdown of some of the damage that he's got. So I can see a lot of reasons why he's been deviating from the Wrench Caliber, and it took me a minute to land on, oh yeah, he still has Warpath in the deck. But that's a big consideration.
So is the play this turn just Devastator hero power? Like, Dynamatic, I kind of like saving to deal with Crystal Smith Kangor without it giving any healing. One
of the things I'm looking at is if you force Pavel into a timeout line, what ends up happening is the bomb pressure starts to really build up. I mean, this puts Pavel on a clock of drawing a bomb immediately dies, and if he has to timeout, that's 2 opportunities in a row.
Yarla just going with good old Dr. Boom here and praying that it can get him there, but this healing for Pavel is quite significant.
He's still getting chipped away a lot in this instance, though.
What does he do? Like, does he have to equality?
I think last turn the Kangor was primed. I think it was Wild Pyromancer, Kangor, Flash of Light. You get to nullify the damage from the Omega Devastator because your True Silver Champion's healed.
It takes off the Divine Shield of the Kangor, which is annoying, but I guess you're right. This play just opened up Yarla to go for exactly this, which was a very predictable play.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, they still have to have it. And if they don't have it, I think you're pretty fine.
Yeah. As here, there is a heal for 12 overall on this turn. Obviously pretty substantial. But bombs in the deck. He's drawing closer to them all the time.
The plan is set. If necessary, Pavel will, I think, just build to a Shivala and risk it.
I think you're very right. His turn is intriguing now. Dynamatic can be used purely to kill off the Crystal Smith Kangor. Sorry, in order to deny any lifesteal.
I think a very important measure.
Yeah.
The Crystal Smith needs to die some way this turn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you need to be respectful of Ziliax, and I think you need to be respectful of Flashlight too.
Yeah, it's just a little too scary. Yarla agrees. Let's get rid of all this nonsense.
Light the fuses!
And the pressure, even though they're all simply meager little 1/1s, is still very rapidly rising.
Bombs in deck.
Still no bombs found for Pavel. Or I suppose he drew a lot of them at the start, but...
There's 2 in deck at the moment.
Yes.
Well, no, there's one.
There's
The
one.
rest-
Yeah, just one.
Oh, these boot bots.
3 and 1.
Okay, so he is still safe from technical damage. 9 mana. Cannot wipe away the Ziliax without healing.
Unless he goes for Geppetto into exactly... Oh, no, obviously you can't Dynamatic a mech in Ziliax.
Ah, that perhaps this is a way to deny it. Nope. Honestly, that could be a big deal for Pavel, too. Just a couple extra points of healing.
Oh. The opportunity for Pavel to just go for lethal is getting closer and closer, man.
He needs a timeout, too. Like, he needs to find timeout so he can try to lens out these bombs.
Yeah. I think he's just got to let rip with them.
Yeah, I mean, there's still 2 timeouts left. I'm letting it rip, too. The Nozari! It gets swapped!
Whoa. Does he just play it now? It's a big minion, and obviously it heals him for a lot, and Yarla for very little.
Whoa, that's a big brain play. I've never seen that actually happen. Like, I forgot this was a possibility because I've only seen the call Nozari list played like a couple of times.
What, of just getting a cheap Nozari?
Yeah, I've just never seen this actually. It didn't occur to me in my head. Like, by the way, you can hit Nozari with Prismatic Lens.
I guess so.
Must act now.
However, with this line of play, Pavel has no defensive abilities in terms of healing outside of the Ziliax.
Yeah,
It's getting a little scary. I guess he's just trying to say, I'm going to bait you into going 2 all in, and then let rip with the Nozari for the maximum amount of heal.
That definitely could be the case. The other thing I'm looking at here, too, is he does need to continue drawing because he has to capitalize on Yarla not having armor as a natural hero power anymore, and he has to close that window before Yarla finds Vicious Scrap Hound, before he gets activation of Eternium Rover, before he finds Ziliax.
Good point.
There's a lot of benefits to Pavel taking these risks right now because ultimately the game plan for him has a very finite window to it.
Oh, but Yarla here is really just going to start the march towards, I don't know, surviving. Like, the amount of armor he can gain over the next few turns, especially if he rolls a Blast Shield, is getting pretty big. If he gets Ziliax, Scrap Hound, or Eternium Rover off of the Omega Assembly, he's looking to be in a really good spot. Those are all pretty miserable.
Oh, I love that fuse thing. Save the best for last.
I think you go. I think you either play a minion here or you go for bombs in the deck. You saw the prismatic lenses happen. Ah, this is good too because this digs in the card to try to get deeper and then also gets the Eternium Rover into play.
Yeah, threatens to gain a lot of armor there.
This also sets up the a laser here to be a big deal. Pavel.
This combo though.
It is not yet your time.
So Pavel's safe from bomb damage now. And honestly, this is kind of a big deal because he got an Omega Devastator out of this as well.
Should Pavel have done it the other way around, where he heals up to full and then converts all his health into armor, because then he could heal up further with Shavala?
Well, he'd be at 30.
He'd have less health immediately,
Yeah.
but he would have a higher potential to heal up in following turns?
That I don't know. I think 8 extra health sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I think that it could matter. I think it's unlikely to. I think once again we're in the situation where it's so much more important on Yarla's end than it is on Pavel's end. And so for Yarla, it's Steel Rager plus the Omega Devastator, 6 mana left. It means that you can wipe out the board this way. You would have Steel Rager, the 4/2 and the 5/1 go into the Nozari, 2 copies of Warpath, and then the Eternium Rover into the High Priest of the Call, and the last copy of Warpath. He gets 6 armor in that process, and he wipes out the board.
Yes.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Gaining the armor as well. 46 health. Like, he's getting to that point of just surviving 2 Holy Wraths. A Ziliax attached could make all the difference in the world.
This is a common iteration I have found.
Yeah. So are we going to see from Pavel a similar line we saw earlier on, where he just risks it? With no bombs in the deck, I don't think he needs to. Can he afford to just take it a little slower with 2 timeouts as well?
Well, the one benefit that he has is that Yarla doesn't have anything in play.
Yeah.
And so maybe a minion connects.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
That I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a weird spot. The timing of it is very awkward because you're staring down 3 1/1s. So like 3 1/1s in Brawl can wipe out your pressure.
Does he really want to take a 1 in 3 to just pretty much lose the game on the spot, though?
No.
He does not.
But
then we're getting into the situation where it could become worse than a 1 in 3 at later points if Yarla finds the bomb shuffle cards. And this is where Pavel's going to have to use his matchup knowledge to know what is generally more likely to happen.
What would Uther do?
yeah, it's funny that Pavel and I sighed and had the exact same posture movements at the same time. I know you can't see mine.
I'm almost out of cards.
Oh, I can.
But it was just funny that we took the same posture at the same time. It's like, yeah, well, I guess I just have to do it this way.
Yeah, I think this is right. He's not under the amount of pressure where he had to go for a play as he did last time. Again, obviously above starting health total, despite that crazy aggressive start from Yarla.
So Yarla needs 5 additional health to outlive 2 Shirvala connections with Holy Wrath.
Okay.
He has 3 additional with Ziliax, which means that he'd like a mech, but he also needs to be able to fight against the board pressure. He needs a mech that has 3 or greater attack or is Vicious Scrap Hound.
Okay.
Yarla knows that the bomb plane is off limits. Pavel has too much life.
Okay, then.
It's just about surviving for Yarla.
So now, War Gear and Ziliax is enough to do it. But the key is that you have to be able to wipe out the Shirvala the turn that you're going to do this.
Security over 2 is pretty nuts.
Security over here is, in my opinion, very nuts. And I am quite surprised he's not going for it.
He just wants to make sure he has something in play, so next turn he can go War Gear and Ziliax. He's not putting any mechs in play.
Well, he wants Pavel to commit, is why.
I guess so. I guess so.
Oh, I didn't account for the second Hammer Wrath either. But with a Blast Shield up, that puts him at 42.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, 52. So he just has to have time to execute all of this. And so for Pavel, I think that means you take a 50-50 right now. You're looking at a Blast Shield. You have to get the Holy Wrath damage, have Yarla fail to have additional health, and then connect the Hammer of Wrath, or connect a minion.
Right.
Yeah. And so the timing of this also into Blast Shield means that the War Gear Ziliax play is off limits.
Can't he guarantee the damage if he Flash of Lights first?
Oh, he could have. Oh,
Now
boy.
it's a 50% chance whether he does Flash of Light, whether he does it or not. Wow.
Act now. I'm almost
That's a
out of
blunder.
cards.
And he just misses.
Out of cards.
Surely if he'd gone with the Flash of Light first, he could have maybe got there, but by missing with that, Yarla just takes a 2-0 lead. It was looking like that Pavel had a really good shot to take that game.
Now, looking at Yarla's hand, he did not. But
Yes.
from Pavel's perspective, there was a chance. And that's the thing, is this matchup is incredibly difficult if your opponent knows how to tackle Holy Wrath Paladin.
Yeah.
Yarla had a check, I think, of almost everything except for some potential like nightmarish possibilities of like a double Holy Wrath in one turn and stuff like that. But in that instance, if Pavel goes for the Flash of Light and then shovels in Shirvala and then Holy Wraths, that deals 25 damage. And so then Yarla has, with the 7 armor up, 27 effective health at that point, which is a Hammer of Wrath connection and a Holy Wrath connection, which takes you 2 turns. but that's way better than taking a 50-50 to immediately cut that percentage.
I think he just had to pray that all the good cards for Jarla were right at the bottom of the deck, like Ziliax was never to be found. Because the weird thing is that if he'd gone War Gear plus Ziliax, that puts it to exactly 7 health, which means a Shavala played with Divine Shield could attack in and not give any extra healing.
It's a weird spot.
I guess it's a really, really weird spot.
The
And
justification for not using Flashlight was you can turn a 1-turn into a... you can turn a 2-turn effectively into a 1-turn? No, you don't have the mana for that.
No.
It costs too much mana. Yarla's ready for an interview. Yarla, can you hear us?
I think your mic's muted, buddy.
Hey guys, can you
There
hear
we
me
go.
now?
There we go. Yes, we can hear you now. I'm going to ask you straight away about the matchup because I feel like there's a lot more going on your side of the matchup. Talk to me about your experience with this one, how much practice you've had, and what in general is the game plan, and what causes a big deviation from that.
Yeah, so I practiced this matchup a lot. I played like maybe more than 10 best of threes against different people, and for me it felt like it's around like 80% for warrior.
Wow.
Unless you throw, and yeah, from playtesting, sometimes you can just go for the kill plan, where they just die on like I don't turn 8, 9. Sometimes you can like out armor them, or sometimes you can like shuffle 6 bombs into their deck when they are hitting fatigue and they just die. So in that case, they cannot go for like the sheer wall up for 100%. They have to go like 50-50 risky play with Shervala, because otherwise they just die to 30
Well, you were
damage
definitely
from bombs.
Yeah, you were putting Pavel in a lot of difficult positions there with your early aggression and also the late game shuffling plan as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that how good do you think Holy Wrath Paladin is going to be? Well, first of all, how good do you think it is now? Is it a good bring to a specialist format? And how good do you think it's going to be after we have a 1-mana Christology?
I think it's pretty decent now, especially against mages. But when the buffs will came out, I think it will get a bit stronger. But it will depend on like other decks, what will be good and stuff like that.
And so now you had a pretty good score this week with, again, kind of playing Warrior in this one. There's been a lot of mix-ups over the course of Europe in terms of just what players are bringing. What do you think stands out to you as like the strongest deck that's out there right now, and some of the thoughts that go into swapping your deck from week to week?
I think the strongest deck right now is Cyclone Mage, and it's really hard to counter that.
Well, why didn't you bring it then? I guess is my question. If you think it's the strongest deck, why is Bomb Warrior better suited against your opponents?
I was expecting Orange and Pavel on like probably Rogue. And I don't think it's that good against it, but it's still close to 50.
Well, all right, Yarla, I think a pretty fantastic week from you and a pretty impressive set that shows your deep understanding of a matchup when you're practiced on it. I think you executed this one pretty close to perfectly. Congratulations on your wins this week, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Yarla, I think, is probably one of the more thoughtful Warrior players I've seen, and I really respect a lot of what's happening. And when I've gotten home after Grandmasters, honestly, I've just thought about some of the things that he's done. I'm like, wow, that's the situation I'm in right now. Thanks, Yarla.
Yeah, he just manages to think about everything. And I guess also something I want to say about Yarla, he's just one of the nicest players that I've met in my time playing Hearthstone. Always very happy to talk to you about anything in Hearthstone. Very friendly and fun to hang out with at all the different events I've seen him at.
Indeed. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the standings and see what's going on. I am fumbling a lot of words today.
I'm right with you there, buddy.
Well, Psycho's right there with Fino at the top. Take a look at Division B, where this is the other side of the bracket that's happening. Fino stands undefeated at 6-0 on that side. Psycho is going to be playing later today versus Casey to try and continue the madhouse streak that he has been on. 5-0 match record, 10-0 game score.
Because we're getting down to very few players that have a perfect win rate, right? With Shaxi losing today, I believe, against Tyler. Monsanto, I think, is the lone undefeated player in Americas at this point as well. With Fino and Psycho both destroying Division A and B in Europe, we could have I mean, a continual streak. They could both just not lose for the whole time. It's possible.
It's definitely possible, and that means we get 2 matches left today after Yarla takes this one by not dropping a game to Pavel, 2-0, in a really tough matchup for Pavel yet again. The risky call's not going his way so far. He's got to figure something out. RDU versus Hunter Race is what's coming up next. 2 total matches left before we ship it over to America, so stay tuned. Plenty more Hearthstone here at Grandmasters.